The first $100,000 is supposed to feel broken. That is the part nobody tells you. You start investing because everybody says the same thing. Start early. Stay consistent. Let compound growth do the work. So you start. Month 1. Money goes in. Month 2. Money goes in again. A year passes. Then 3 years. Then 5. And you look at the account thinking, this is it? Where is the compounding everybody promised me? The answer is simple. Compounding was working the entire time. The problem was not the percentage. The problem was the base. 7% of $10,000 is only $700. 7% of $100,000 is $7,000. 7% of $1 million is $70,000. Same hypothetical return. Completely different result. That is why building wealth feels like 4 completely different games. From $0 to $100,000, you are the engine. From $100,000 to $300,000, the portfolio starts helping. From $300,000 to around $650,000, the money begins carrying serious weight. And after $650,000 toward $1 million, the numbers can start moving faster than your lifestyle knows how to process. None of those balances are magical thresholds. The percentage did not suddenly change. The base did. And understanding that can stop you from quitting during the exact years when quitting costs the most. Stage 1. $0 to $100,000. You are the engine. You are 28. You finally decide to get serious. You set up an automatic contribution. $900 a month. Not every spare dollar. An amount you can actually maintain. The money goes into a diversified long-term portfolio inside the retirement plan available to you. For 2026, the employee 401 contribution limit is $24,500 and the general IRA contribution limit is $7,500 for most people under 50, subject to the applicable rules. You do not need to reach either maximum to start. $900 a month. Every month. You assume a hypothetical 7% average annual return for planning. Not because 7% is guaranteed. It is not. Actual markets can rise, fall, and produce very different results from year to year. InvestorGov's own compound growth calculator asks you to enter an estimated return because the future return is an assumption, not a promise. After 1 year, your contributions are doing almost all the work. After 3 years, same story. You are feeding the machine much faster than the machine is feeding itself. At roughly $900 a month, with a smooth hypothetical 7% return, reaching the first $100,000 takes around 7 years. You contributed roughly $77,000. Only around $23,000 came from hypothetical investment growth. That is why the first $100,000 can feel frustrating. You hear the word compounding. But most of what you see is your own money coming back at you. You are still pushing the car. And this is where people become vulnerable. You see somebody make $20,000 on one stock. You have spent years slowly building. Suddenly your strategy looks boring. Maybe you should trade. Maybe crypto. Maybe options. Maybe whatever went viral this week. But boring is not automatically broken. The first stage is supposed to depend heavily on your contributions. Your job here is not to become a genius. Your job is to remain consistent long enough to build a base large enough for percentages to matter. But there is something you need to fix before you aggressively feed this machine. Make sure another form of compounding is not working against you. High-interest debt. If you are investing while carrying a credit card at 20%, 25%, or 30%, you may be building on one side, while expensive interest attacks you from the other. InvestorGov specifically says eliminating high-interest credit card debt can be financially stronger and lower risk than trying to earn investment returns high enough to overcome it. And this is where credit belongs in the wealth-building conversation. Pull the reports. Experian, TransUnion, Equifax. If there are accounts that are not yours, incorrect late payments, duplicate debts, wrong balances, or closed accounts reported incorrectly, investigate them, and dispute genuine inaccuracies with supporting evidence. The CFPB identifies those as common reporting errors and says consumers have the right to dispute inaccurate information, but do not dispute accurate debt just because it is expensive. Pay it. Lower the balances. Protect every payment. Because before compounding can make you wealthy, you have to stop expensive interest from keeping you poor. Then return to the investment account. $900, month after month. At this stage, progress is not, did my portfolio impress me? Progress is, did the system survive another year? Stage 2, $100,000 to $300,000, the portfolio starts helping, then one day, the account says, $100,000. 6 figures. You stare at it. For approximately 30 seconds, it feels enormous. Then you realize you cannot retire. You cannot stop working. You are not suddenly rich. So what actually changed? The base. At a hypothetical 7% average return, $100,000 represents about $7,000 of annual growth in a smooth illustration. Your $900 monthly contribution equals $10,800 per year. You are still contributing more than the hypothetical return. But not by much. Around $155,000, 7% is roughly $10,850. Now the portfolio's hypothetical annual growth is approximately equal to the $10,800 you personally contribute. That is an important psychological moment. Not because every year from now on gives you 7%. It won't. But because capital has finally become large enough that its movement can rival your annual deposits. At $200,000, 7% is $14,000. At $300,000, $21,000. Same percentage. The percentage never became more powerful. The base did. And this creates a completely different danger. Stage 1 tempted you to quit because progress felt too slow. Stage 2 tempts you to interfere because progress finally feels important. Your account falls 15%. When you had $20,000, that meant $3,000. Now at $300,000, $45,000. Same percentage decline. Completely different emotional experience. You start thinking, I need to protect this. So you sell. Then the market rebounds. Now you wonder whether to buy back. Suddenly the disciplined investor becomes a market timer. This is why diversification and an allocation matched to your time horizon and risk tolerance matter. Diversification can reduce concentration risk, but it cannot guarantee against market losses. The job changes. Between $0 and $100,000, keep putting money in. Between $100,000 and $300,000, keep yourself from destroying what you already built. That sounds easier. It is not. Stage 3, $300,000 to $650,000. Capital gets heavy now. Imagine the portfolio reaches $300,000. Your annual contribution is still $10,800. At a hypothetical 7% average return, $21,000. For the first time, the expected return illustration is almost twice what you personally add in a year. You go to work, earn money, save, invest, but now there is another worker in the house. Capital. And capital does not need weekends. It does not get tired. It does not ask for a raise. But it also does not produce smooth paychecks. That part matters. One year could be positive, another could be negative. A portfolio is not an employee sending you $21,000 on December 31. This is simply what 7% of $300,000 looks like mathematically. Then the account moves toward $400,000, $500,000, $650,000. 7% is $45,500. Your annual contribution? Still $10,800. Now look at the ratio. You are adding around $11,000. The hypothetical return on the base is more than 4 times that. This is where compounding finally starts looking like the thing people described when your account had $7,000 in it. But you had to survive the boring part first. And something else changes here. Money begins creating options. You hate your job? You still should not quit tomorrow just because you have investments. But if you also have an emergency fund and accessible savings, your overall financial position can make a career transition less terrifying. You want to start a business? You can make decisions from a stronger balance sheet. A bad lender offers you terrible terms? You are more capable of walking away. That is what wealth starts buying before it buys luxury. Margin, and margin changes your personality around money. The person with no savings asks, what happens if they say no? The person with financial margin starts asking, why should I accept this deal? That is the same reason strong credit matters. The card is not the flex. The approval power behind the card is. And eventually, even approval power becomes less important than having enough financial strength to simply reject debt you do not need. Stage 4, $650 to $1 million. The numbers start moving differently now. The account says $650,000. Again, not a magical number, no fireworks, nothing legally changes. But mathematically, your base has become serious. A 1% move is $6,500. A 5% move, $32,500. A 10% move, $65,000. Your monthly contribution is $900. So the market can now move your portfolio by several years of your contributions in a relatively short period. That can feel amazing when markets rise, and terrifying when they fall. This is why becoming wealthier does not remove the need for discipline. It increases it. At $20,000, impatience can cost you hundreds. At $650,000, emotional decisions can cost tens of thousands. Then the account approaches $1 million. $800,000, $900,000, $975,000. Then one ordinary morning, $1,003,000. You expected to feel rich. Instead, you have to go to work. That may be the most useful lesson of the entire journey. $1 million is a serious amount of capital. It is not unlimited money, and it is not guaranteed retirement. But look at the machine now. At a hypothetical 7%, $70,000. Again, not a guaranteed annual paycheck. Just 7% of the base. You are still contributing $10,800. Your contribution matters. But capital now has enough size that market movements can dominate what you personally add. That is what took decades to build. Not a magical return, a large enough base. The part everyone gets wrong: people look at somebody with $1 million invested and think, must be nice. And yes, it is nice. But they are looking at the final stage of a system and forgetting stage 1. They see the million. They do not see the first automatic transfer. They do not see year 3 when the account still looked small. They do not see the credit card balance being paid down. They do not see the market drop when selling felt intelligent. They do not see the raise that went into investments instead of a larger car payment. They see the tree. They did not see the years when it looked like dirt. That is why the first $100,000 is psychologically difficult. You are being asked to trust a system before the system has enough capital to impress you. Then, somewhere along the way, the relationship reverses. At the beginning, your money needs you. Eventually, you begin needing your money less. That is freedom, not the number, the declining dependence. And that is the real secret of compounding. It does not suddenly switch on at $100,000. It does not suddenly become powerful at $650,000. The mathematical principle was there from $1. The percentage stayed the same. The base kept getting larger. $0 to $100,000, you are the engine. $100 to $300,000, the portfolio starts helping. $300 to $650,000, capital begins carrying serious weight. $650 to $1 million, the machine can start moving by amounts that once took you years to save. So if your account is still small, do not confuse invisible progress with no progress. If you are in the middle, do not destroy years of discipline because one market decline scares you. If your portfolio becomes large, do not confuse a hypothetical average return with guaranteed income. And whatever stage you are in, keep the expensive debt controlled. Keep your credit accurate. Keep your emergency reserve. Keep your investments diversified according to your goals and risk tolerance. Then give the system the one thing no amount of money can purchase later: time, because the first $100,000 feels like you are pushing the machine. The million is what happens when the machine finally becomes heavy enough to push back. And the percentage never changed. Only the size of what it was working on did, based on the 4 milestone structure and compounding framework of the provided reference.